First up, we have Ken Armstrong, CEO of North Arrow Minerals since April 2013. Ken has over 25 years of experience in the exploration industry. Throughout that period, he has been involved in the discovery or evaluation of diamond-bearing kimberlites at 10 localities in Canada as well as Greenland. Mr. Armstrong is the director of Cornish Metals, formerly Strongbow Exploration. I believe that is the ancient tin mine system in Cornwall, England, that the Phoenicians exploited. But we'll hear about that another day. Ken, over to you.
Thank you, Mark. Real pleasure to be back presenting to the TakeStock live audience. It's been a little bit. Last time we were talking about our gold project. This time I'm going to talk about diamonds because that's really what North Arrow is all about. When I do it, obviously I'll be making some forward-looking statements, so please keep that in mind. Just a quick corporate overview. As Mark mentioned, we're listed on the Venture Exchange under NAR. We have just over 120 million shares outstanding. Been trading in the 10-cent range since the calendar flipped over. And I think a key thing for us is our shareholder base. Over half of our shares outstanding are owned by insiders or one of our three key shareholders, the Lundin Family Trust, Electrum, and Ross Beatty. And that shareholder base is really important for us, and that support, as is the experience that we bring to the table with the people involved in the company. I'm not going to spend time on the people on this list. Would be happy to do so offline later on if you contact myself or Nick Thomas. But I'd rather talk about our projects and the diamond market in general here a little bit. As I mentioned, we're a diamond explorer. We have been a real leader. We've had great success over the last number of years finding new kimberlite fields like we did at Mel and at Piku in Saskatchewan. We also own the Naujaat Diamond Project and the Q1-4 deposit that I'm going to talk about in some detail. We have a bulk sample that's currently being processed there. We're really well positioned for discovery and advancing our projects. All of our projects are fully permitted. And that's really important, I think, and it's worth spending some time just talking about the diamond space in general, because it hasn't been really in favor for a number of years, but that has changed. And that change has not really been reflected in the share prices of the companies that are exploring or even mining diamonds right now. We can see that change reflected in a few areas, like on the retail side. Here are a couple of charts of U.S. retail jewelry sales. The U.S. market is half of the world's market right now. The upper slide shows the monthly sales in that market over the last 5 years. You can see they're really flat. You can see the real divot in March and April of 2020 with the pandemic. But then since then, month over month, increasing jewelry sales to a place that's well above where the average was over the preceding number of years. And you can really see that in the lower chart here, where the projected sales in 2021 are 50% above the trailing average for the last 20 years. Like, that's really impressive. Fair question, of course, would be, is it sustainable? What are we seeing here? And we think it is sustainable. And probably more importantly, some of the biggest players in the space think it's sustainable. A good example of that in 2021 was the purchase of Tiffany, which is arguably the best known luxury retail brand in North America. It was purchased by LVMH for $16 billion. That's a significant investment. We've seen other big investments in the Chinese mainland market as well, which is also quite large. So big players making big investments in the retail side. And we're seeing that demand then influencing the news that's coming out of the diamond mining companies. As an example, Alrosa, the largest diamond mining company in the world, right now has essentially zero inventory of diamonds. You can see on this chart that it's typically, in that blue line, had an inventory that it could draw from to meet the demand of its buyers. Over the last year, they've had to buy diamonds from the Gokran, which is the Russian government, in order to meet the demand that it's seeing. We're also seeing that increased demand for rough in announcements for mine expansions. Lucara has a $500 million mine expansion underway in Botswana. De Beers has a number of expansions of its operations, headlined by the $6 billion expansion at Zhuaneng. So what we're seeing at the retail side and on the mining side, the biggest players, the most sophisticated players, those that know the diamond market best, are making multi-billion-dollar bets on the future of the natural diamond market. And that's really important for us. We see that increased demand reflected in rough diamond prices over the last year. They're up over almost 25%. It's a good looking chart, but I think informative to look back over the last 15 years or so. And we're just seeing the rough diamond prices are reaching the all-time high, close to the all-time high that they experienced in 2011. And that's really reflecting the fact that that supply has peaked. In 2017, global rough supply was about 152 million carats. In 2020, that was down to 111 million carats, and that's what it's supposed to stay at. It's projected to stay at going forward, and that's the kind of projection that really makes the news that North Arrow is going to have and just where we're positioned, I think, really important for people who are interested in looking at the space, and important for them to keep in mind. We have, as I mentioned, we're really well positioned. We have a number of projects all throughout Canada. Had really good success at our discovery stage projects over the last number of years. As I mentioned, finding the Piku diamond and kimberlite field, the diamondiferous kimberlites there. We want to get back there in 2022. We also made a discovery at Mel in 2017, 2018, and on our other projects. As I mentioned when I last talked to this audience, we were talking about our Hope Bay Gold project and just what it could be. We are working on an arrangement to bring a partner in on that project that'll see a field season this year. But what I want to talk to you about is our most advanced project at NALJAAT, which is right up at the north end of of Hudson Bay. In 2020, during the pandemic, we signed an agreement with a partner, Burgundy Diamond Mines, who have funded a $5.6 million bulk sample for us. They're earning a 40% interest in that project by funding that sample, and it's currently at a lab getting processed. And I just have a video here that Raj is going to queue up that'll take you through the sampling process that we went through this summer. And it also highlights just some of the advantages of this project. So we collected the sample from surface, just using small excavators, similar process that we've used in the past, where we can bring these excavators out from the nearby community. It's only 7 kilometers from the pits to our laydown near town. With those excavators, we can push back the overburden. You can kind of see the overburden piles there. And then it exposes the kimberlite, and we're able to rip that. We can push it up with a bucket or rip it with a frost pick like we saw there. And then push the kimberlite up into piles and just fill these 1-ton mega bags, about 6 scoops of kimberlite, and it'd be about 900 kilos or so. And the bags are just set up on these really not very technically savvy, but they work 2x4 cradles. And when they're full, we rip those off, put those lanyards on. Key is we just saw there that we had 2 excavators. So we kind of doubled everything just with COVID, wanting to make sure that we would get the program done. And want to make sure the bags are filled to a way that they could be picked up by the helicopter very easily and taken to that laydown that's 7 kilometers from our work area. Similar to the excavators, we had 2 helicopters through the program. Cycle time was about 10 to 12 minutes to be dropping off a bag, to then go and pick up a bag and be dropping off the next one. It worked really well and could do that at the same pace that we could fill the bags. So here we see them. It's 2,500 bags. That's a lot. It was a big sample. It was a tremendous undertaking. And really, to do it, we relied heavily, particularly with the COVID planning, on our local workforce. Over 2/3 of our workforce were local employees from the hamlet of Naujaat. And we really relied on them when we had to get the bag. 3 or 4 different loaders to put the bags onto trays, which were then transferred onto little mini barges, which were then in turn pushed out to the sea lift that was anchored offshore. And this is just the annual sea lift that brings supplies to the community every year. Gives you an idea of the infrastructure that is there. The ship then returned to Montreal, where the bags were offloaded and put onto flatbed trucks and driven to Saskatchewan Research Council Diamond Lab in Saskatoon, where in late October, we announced that we started the process in reverse, opening the bags, putting them into a plant. They're going through a pretty standard DMS plant to create a heavy mineral concentrate, which is then going through an XRT recovery circuit to create a hand sortable concentrate. And that XRT is really important. It's a new sorting technology that essentially every diamond mining operation in the world is using right now. And SRC has the first commercial scale unit that can recover diamonds down to 2 millimeters. So that is all happening right now, with a real focus on recovering these orangey yellow diamonds here. So I think we'll just put the presentation back up again where we were. Thanks, Raj. And can carry on. So that's sort of the process. I just want to get across that it's really rare for a diamond project to get to this point where you've got a big bulk sample that's in a lab getting processed. This is not the typical risk profile of a diamond exploration project. It's not about kimberlite discovery. It's not about deposit size. It's not about microdiamonds or mineral chemistry that could tell us if there's going to be diamonds. This is simply about processing the sample and getting out the bigger diamonds that we project should be there. And that is what we're looking to get from it. So I think fair to say, what does that then translate to in terms of results that the market can absorb, and what does a positive result look like? And I think the short answer to that is a result that's very similar to what we came up with in 2014 from the bulk sample we collected would be positive for the program. And the reason for that is we've done a lot of work on these colored diamonds. They're fancy, they're valuable, very rare worldwide. We've done the work to show that they're a distinct population. And when we model the data that we have now, those diamonds show themselves to have a coarser distribution. And if that distribution ends up being correct, then we're going to be looking at a price that could be up to $200 a carat, which would really make this project work. So a positive result, if we can get the same kind of result we had in 2014, we're going to fill in the data points to prove that this chart is correct, and ideally get some diamonds that could be then cut and polished and certified at the GIA. So just looking forward, Naujaat does tick all the boxes. You can permit a mine in Nunavut and in this region in Nunavut. We're on tidewater, as we showed you, so close to the community, which reduces our costs. It's big, which helps with strip ratio. It's a big inventory. It's the biggest inventory of diamonds in a deposit in Canada that's not already under the thumb of a diamond producer. And then blue sky. The deposit itself could be bigger. There's another 15 kimberlites in the project that need to be evaluated. And then, of course, just our own portfolio of projects, things like Piku that we want to get to and drill. So we have a lot of news coming. Results from the bulk sample will be reported over the next couple of months, and it will be something to stay tuned for. Thanks very much.